History could be made in the Texas Capitol tomorrow. It's November 16th, 2023, and these are your headlines. For the first time in decades, and I mean decades, school choice legislation is finally scheduled to be heard in the Texas House. That's happening tomorrow on Friday. Whether the proposal has enough support from members, however, remains to be seen. There have been little test votes here and there on the subject. There's even been a couple this year. You generally see Democrats vote against it, as well as a group of anywhere between 10 and 20 or so Republicans. Whether or not those Republicans will move on tomorrow's proposal is the big question. The proposal that they'll be voting on is House Bill 1 by State Representative Brad Buckley. It would create an education savings account of approximately $10,500 available to any child. Unused funds don't roll over from year to year, and a child who is homeschooled will qualify for $1,000. The program will be limited by funds allocated by the legislature every 2 years, and ESAs will be awarded based on family income levels. So even though all students will be eligible, there will be priority based on the amount of funding available. Students collecting ESAs will be required to take a state assessment test or a national norm reference test. Those who don't perform satisfactorily on the assessment 2 years in a row will be disqualified from the program. Now that's the school choice part of the plan. Of course, the bill is a little bit bigger than that. The plan also includes teacher pay raises. In year one, full-time teachers, nurses, counselors, and librarians will earn a $4,000 bonus, while part-time employees will earn $2,000. In the second year, the continuation of pay increases will be set by the local districts using the state's basic allotment process. Essentially, we're talking about billions of dollars in extra funding for public education as part of this school choice bill. You may remember the bill was heard last week in the House Select Committee on Educational Opportunity and Enrichment, a committee that was interestingly set up. This wasn't the Public Education Committee. Rather, Speaker Phelan, ahead of the special session, set up a brand new committee to hear the bill that took some school choice supporters like State Representative Brian Harrison and Matt Schaefer off of the Education Committee and created a new one that didn't include them. But it was finally approved last week in a 10-4 vote in committee. Despite the billions of dollars, though, in teacher pay raises and additional school funding, legislation was still opposed by teacher unions. Some of them said, essentially, there's no amount of money that you could give to teachers or to schools to have them support anything that looks like a school choice bill. The issue has been made a top priority by Governor Greg Abbott, who has threatened to call members back for additional special sessions into next year, January, February, if it doesn't pass this time. The Senate, meanwhile, they've already passed school choice. They've actually repeatedly passed school choice legislation, including the Senate's own version last week. And in the latest case for why school choice legislation may be needed in Texas, a recently removed Houston high school teacher is accused of having sex with a female student in his classroom. Christopher Wayne Williams, age 41, was charged with improper relationship between an educator and student. That's a second-degree felony, punishable by 2 to 20 years in prison. Williams taught history and debate at Eastwood Academy High School in Houston ISD since 2017. Houston ISD police say Williams had sex with his student. The teacher and his alleged victim also exchanged sexual text messages saying, "I love you." The victim told police she became involved with Williams during the last school year. That's when district police began investigating after a friend of the victim told an officer that Williams and the student engaged in sexual activity in Williams' classroom. The school employee told police that several students had shared similar concerns, and she had reported her suspicions to the principal. Williams was then removed along with Eastwood Academy's principal, vice principal, guidance counselor, and librarian. Houston ISD officials have confirmed that charges have been filed against Williams. Now, get this, he was selected by students as Eastwood Academy's Teacher of the Year back in February of 2020. State records show Williams' Texas teaching certificate is still valid.
Do Democrats control the Texas House? That's the question I'm asking myself, because so many people have been coming up to me and asserting that as a fact. I can count. There are more Republicans in the Texas House than Democrats. But what folks keep pointing to is a Speaker of the Texas House who seems more concerned with appeasing the Democrats than delivering for his Republican voters.
As Democrats, thank you. We appreciate so much your allowing us the opportunity to work together.
You only need 8 or 10 rhinos to side with all the Democrats, then all the conservative Republicans are shoved outside in the wilderness.
Call a spade a spade. The Democrats control the House.
So I'm going to go out and travel the state. I'm going to visit with folks and ask that question. Who runs the Texas House?
So that's a really good question.
Lastly, Republican Representatives Ronnie Jackson and August Pfluger from right here in Texas in the Lone Star State have introduced legislation up in Congress to prohibit the Biden administration from implementing a so-called Remain in Texas policy. The two lawmakers are leading the Texas delegation in the U.S. House to effectively prohibit the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, from enforcing the proposed policy, which would have forced illegal aliens to remain in Texas or other border states while awaiting asylum screenings. The measure also states that no federal funds can be used towards the program. Now, back in September, we at Texas Scorecard reported on the Biden administration's plan to force illegal aliens to remain in Texas by tracking their location through GPS monitoring devices, like ankle bracelets, while they undergo that asylum screening. The next month, U.S. officials announced that the plan had been shelved due to, of all things, disagreements with the city of El Paso. If you liked today's episode, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and go to TexasScorecard.com.